Okay, what you missed was the lecture over the social contract. And we are looking at John Locke's social contract. He wrote two treatises of government. It's really a collection of essays. And he is a British political thinker. And we're looking at him because it's a lot of his ideas that, inspired people like Jefferson. So the three things that we're tackling today with this lecture are here. What is the purpose of government? We're going to look at the answer to that question, but there's many answers to the question. And I can't tell you one is right or wrong. What is the purpose of government is sort of the fundamental question that Republicans and Democrats disagree on in many instances. So we're going to look at what John Locke says the purpose of government is, and we'll come back to that question and other answers to it. But we're really looking at what John Locke says is the purpose of government today. Another theme that we're going to be looking at throughout the semester, but it's a good place to start here with John Locke's ideas, is why or how have property rights become so significant in American political culture? So that is something that we will come back to. And when I say American political culture, I'm talking about values and ideas that are fundamental in our society. They're, ideas like democracy, freedom, individuality. Those are all parts of American political culture, and Americans are particularly concerned with protecting property rights. So hopefully looking at John Locke's ideas better explains this for you. And then by the end of this, you will be identifying the philosophical reasoning in historical documents that's parallel to John Locke's ideas. Okay, so John Locke is a political theorist. And the big question is, looking at civilization today, we have governments across the world that have formed, and what he wants to know is why we formed those civilizations. And then that might answer a question for us today, and definitely at the time of the American Revolution, as to what should our government do. So John Locke has to do sort of a mental simulation or a mental experiment about what was society like way back before civilization. What was it like for humans that would have pushed them into forming societies? And so he imagines this place, this hypothetical place, and he calls it the state of nature. Now it's hypothetical because we don't know what it looked like. It was before civilization. One of the defining features of civilization is a written language. So this is before anyone wrote down what was happening. And he says, in this place, there must have been no rules and no rulers, because nothing was written down and nothing was agreed upon. And so if there are no rules, that means you have total freedom. And if there are no rulers, that means you'd have total equality. No one can govern someone else. So John Locke would say the state of nature could be a really great place because you have total freedom and you have total equality. And most of us today would agree that would be great to have as much freedom and as much equality as possible. Now, often Locke's ideas are compared with Thomas Hobbes' ideas. They're both British philosophers. They write at slightly different times. Locke comes a little bit later. He had witnessed the Glorious Revolution, whereas, Hobbes saw the problems of Britain before the Glorious Revolution. So, but back to this state of nature. So total freedom, total equality, it sounds great. Now, Hobbes would say that this place was actually quite dark, quite scary, because everyone was stealing from everyone. People were harming each other because there were no rules to keep them in place. So let's look at Locke's ideas, but I'm going to do it through an analogy. I went through an analogy following more of a Socratic method in class. Today, right now, I'm trying to just explain it to you, which will be a little bit harder telling you rather than discussing it with you. So imagining this place. There's no rules, there's no rulers. It's you, you're by yourself. You need basic things to live. Food, water, shelter. And so you live in a place pretty close to a nice little brook where you can get water and plenty of apples. And so every day you climb the apple trees, you get a couple apples for breakfast, you get some water. You might do, clean yourself Then you decide to go out for a hunt. You're not always successful on the hunt, but you got to get protein every so often. So you go for a hunt. Sometimes you're lucky and you get something. Other times you just get a few more apples and then retire for the evening and do it all again. And your life has been like this. You're on your own. You're getting apples and water, shooting for the hunt, and continue on. Well, one day you get this idea that you will make yourself a bed. You've been tired. You have a nice little cave that you've been staying in, but you sleep on the hard floor and it's cold. And you think, wouldn't it be nice if I had something cushy to sleep on? And maybe even if I had some sort of door to block the wind or block the elements. And you decide, you should really do that. You're going to have to get together a lot of materials and do a lot of work to make that happen. So you decide that the next morning, what you'll do is you'll go get as many apples as possible. You'll just, pick that tree until there's no more apples to be picked. You're going to bring it back to your den, and then you don't have to worry about climbing trees looking for apples. You can really focus on the work at hand, making yourself a wonderful bed so you can sleep good at night. And so you go out one morning and you pick. You climb many trees, you bring them all back, and you go to bed that night on the hard, cold ground thinking, this might be the last night I sleep on a hard, cold ground. Tomorrow I'll get some feathers, I'll get some grass, I'll put it together, and it'll be great. Well, the next morning you wake up pretty excited at your plan. You slept really good with this anticipation. You roll over and all your apples are gone. You're confused, but you are also hungry. So you step out, get an apple, walk down to that nice babbling brook, and you look across, not very far from you, and you see this guy. And he's got a lot of apples, and he's just throwing a munch. You've never seen him before. There's lots of apples around. He definitely could have picked those apples himself. So let's go through, what you're thinking. Do you think that this guy, Dwayne Johnson, do you think he stole your apples? So if you think on this, you can say yes and you can say no, and you're right. You're right. There's no rules in this place, so technically he didn't do anything wrong. And that word steal implies that there's something wrong. I asked, did he steal it? We might agree he took it, but stealing it means he did something he wasn't supposed to do, that he broke a rule about property. So if you said, no, he didn't steal because there's no rule saying he can't do that, you're correct. Now, if you said yes, that's because you feel it deep down that you had picked all those apples and he wasn't supposed to take them. And so this is where Locke says that maybe we as humans do have an inner compass, that we know that there are some rules out there. Well, even if you think he stole them, here's the thing, you just think he stole it. You don't know that he took your apples. So you could get hot-headed and run over there and say, give me back my apples. And he could just say, these are mine. You don't have any proof that he took them. And let's look at him. You might not want to run up to him all hot-headed because you could risk your own safety. So anyways, you get some apples and you decide, I still want to do my thing. I don't know he did it. I'll get apples and then I'll guard them, but I want to get a bed, I want to get a door. So you go the next day, get all those apples, you go back to your cave, and this time you kind of sleep on top of them, you make like a little pyramid out of them and lean against it, and you think, no one will take my apples, I'll wake up. The next morning, you do wake up, but you wake up flat on the ground with a pretty bad headache and no apples. You walk back out, you cross you get to the water, to the brook, and you look across, and there he is, smiling right back at you, eating some apples. So now, you're a smart person, you realize he is probably him, and he doesn't seem too scared of you, but you feel rather scared of him. And at this point, you might be going, well, that's not total equality, look how much bigger he is. I want to remind you, he's bigger. That doesn't mean he's as smart. That doesn't mean he's as fast. And if we really want to level the playing field, everybody goes to sleep. Everybody has to fall asleep at some point. So let's go through your options, because you really want to make this bed. But can you do this? Can every morning your apples get taken? You'll never get to making your bed. So think through your scenarios. Like I'm asking you, what could you do? I'm imagining that you've come up with, 5 or 6 things. So I'm going to try to address all of those. So you might have said, well, let's just fight him. And I'm going to throw that one right out. You could, and you might be successful, but you risk your own safety and even potentially your life. So I'm going to assume that you are wise enough to know you can't go up against this guy. Your next option, you say, well, steal them back. And you could do that, but it's kind of the same thing where even if you sneak up and try to steal them, you risk your own life. And let's not forget, you don't really have proof he did it. You could negotiate with him. So you might think, well, I'll just go up to him and say, look, I know you're taking my apples. I got some other things to do. So I'll just, every morning, I'll give you 3 apples. Okay? I'll give you 3 apples and leave me alone. You could do that, but I want to point out, if every day you go up a tree and you pick apples for him so he doesn't hurt you, you have just enslaved yourself. You are doing work for free. You're not really getting anything in return. You could move. Problem with that is you might be moving somewhere where there's no food, or you move and there's just someone else. There's, I don't know, Arnold Schwarzenegger, okay? So wherever you go, there might be another one of these people that steal from you. So this leaves you with kind of your best option or your most likely option, 2 of them. Now you could decide there's only one way to stop him, and that is to kill him. Okay, so you could kill him. Why you might choose that is by him taking your food, in some way he's threatening your life, because that's how you live, is by eating. You also are going to probably choose this route because fighting him, just trying to hurt him, means you give him the option to retaliate against you. So killing him is an option, but there might be more just like him. So it's kind of like the moving option. You kill him, there might be someone else. And also in trying to kill him, you're trying. You might harm yourself. And then finally, you could just quit. Quit collecting all those apples. When you collect all those apples, that puts a target on your back. And I want to elaborate just a bit there. If you do somehow manage to give him 3 apples a day so he doesn't bug you, and you make that bed, and you make that door, and you have a nice cozy den at this point, what might Dwayne Johnson really want to take from you? It's not going to be just the apples. So those apples make you a sitting target. So what you might decide is to stop. Stop what you're doing. Don't collect the apples, because then people just steal them from you. And even if you make yourself a bed, that might be taken from you as well. So what we really see here about the state of nature is your property and your life are always in danger. They are always in danger. But it might not be as dismal as Hobbes described it. So I'm going to leave the analogy, and we'll come back every so often to it. And the next part we'll pick up here.